For centuries, myths have acted like mirrors, reflecting our fears, our hopes, and the things we could never explain. But every so often, a story appears that refuses to stay a myth. A whisper becomes a rumor becomes a sighting, and then, long after everyone has forgotten, a piece of evidence resurfaces, something so strange, so impossible, that it forces us to question everything we thought we knew. This is one of those stories. In the late 1960s, a small scientific team vanished during an isolated research mission into some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. Their disappearance was tragic, but not unprecedented. What was unprecedented, however, was what they left behind: an old metal case containing damaged reels of film, half-rotted notebooks, and a single warning scribbled in shaky handwriting: "Do not follow the lights." For decades, the footage remained untouched, deteriorating in a forgotten archive. Until now. Because what those reels show shouldn't exist. Not in our world, not in any world we understand. Shapes moving where nothing should be alive. Eyes reflecting light where there shouldn't be eyes at all. Bodies that match descriptions found not in biology textbooks, but in folklore carved into stone thousands of years ago. So the real question isn't whether myths are real, it's this: what did that forgotten expedition actually film? And why were they so desperately trying to warn us? Stay with me. What you're about to see will change the way you think about myth forever. The first reel begins with nothing more than a frozen horizon, an endless, blinding sheet of white stretching beyond the frame like the edge of the world itself. Wind howls across the microphone, rattling the camera as if warning the crew to turn back. But then something changes. The camera steadies. The breathing behind the lens grows shallow, and a faint movement appears in the distance. Too slow for blowing snow, too smooth for drifting ice. At first, the team thought they were witnessing a mirage, but mirages don't leave trails, mirages don't shift direction, and mirages don't rise, slowly, deliberately, from beneath the ice. What the lens captured was pale, impossibly pale. A shape almost human in outline, yet stretched. Elongated, wrong. Its surface glistened like wet skin, though the temperature was far below anything life should withstand. And as it surfaced, its head turned, not fully, not naturally, just enough to reveal the curve of a face. A blank face, featureless, except for the eyes. Two black, reflective discs that caught the light like the surface of a frozen lake. For decades, Japanese maritime workers have whispered about the ningen, a creature said to dwell beneath Antarctic waters, described as a white, human-shaped being the size of a whale. Most dismissed it as folklore or exhaustion-induced hallucinations. But the footage looks nothing like fantasy. The team was so horrified that they stopped filming, only to start again moments later, shaking, whispering, arguing whether the thing had followed them beneath the ice. But this was only the beginning, because the second reel captures something far older and far more dangerous. The second reel looks nothing like the first. Gone is the cold, sterile expanse of ice. Instead, the footage opens on a swamp, thick fog curling over dark water. Reeds swaying gently despite the stillness of the air. The date stamp is smudged, unreadable, but one thing is clear. The expedition had traveled far from the frozen south. Too far. And whatever drove them into this marsh, they knew it wasn't safe. The camera jostles as someone whispers, "There, by the tree line." At first, it's impossible to see anything beyond the murky ripples. Then, slowly, a shape rises from the water. Not quickly, not aggressively. Just deliberately, as though it had been waiting. What emerges is unlike any known animal: a smooth domed head, long whisker-like tendrils, a body that seems to shift between mammalian and reptilian with every distorted frame. For a moment it freezes, half submerged, studying the humans with a stillness that feels unnatural. Then it emits a low vibration, a sound so deep the camera's microphone struggles to capture it. The crew panics, their breaths sharp and frantic. To the untrained eye, it might look impossible, but to anyone familiar with Aboriginal legends, the silhouette is unmistakable: the bunyip, the devourer, a creature said to lurk in wetlands, dragging unsuspecting victims beneath the surface. For generations, many believed the myth came from sightings of extinct megafauna like Diprotodon, the giant wombat-like beast that once roamed Australia. But this thing isn't a fossil, and it isn't extinct. The reel ends abruptly as the creature begins to move toward them, fast. And the third reel? It reveals exactly what the team was running from next. The third reel begins with heavy breathing and frantic footsteps crunching through undergrowth. Gone is the cold calm of ice and the slow dread of the swamp. This footage is chaos. The camera swings wildly, capturing flashes of dense rainforest, streaks of sunlight, and terrified faces smeared with mud. Someone whispers, "It's still behind us," and the way their voice cracks. It doesn't sound like superstition. It sounds like experience. Then the forest goes silent. Not quiet, silent. No insects. No birds. No wind. The camera steadies as the crew pans across the trees, trunks thicker than pillars, moss hanging like torn fabric. At first, nothing moves. Then, something massive shifts in the shadows. Branches sway, leaves tremble, and a deep, guttural growl rolls through the air, so low it seems to vibrate inside the chest of whoever is holding the camera. A towering shape steps forward, covered in coarse reddish-brown fur, its enormous arms dragging through the foliage. Its posture is hunched, but its size is impossible to ignore 7, maybe 8 feet tall, a long, sloping back, the scent of rot drifting from its breath. Indigenous tribes call it the mapinguari, the guardian of the forest, a creature that should have died out thousands of years ago. But scientists have long debated whether it might be a surviving giant ground sloth, a prehistoric behemoth capable of tearing down trees with ease. The creature blinks slowly, almost lazily, as if unbothered by the intruders. But when it opens its mouth wide, far too wide, the crew screams, and the camera jolts violently as they begin running again. The reel ends mid-sprint, but the 4th reel doesn't begin with running. It begins with water. Deep, black, open water. The 4th reel opens with a low hum, an engine reverberating through water. The camera is aboard a small research vessel, illuminated only by a weak floodlight cutting across the black surface of a cavernous sinkhole. The water is so still it looks like melted obsidian. Someone mutters, "Blue hole's too quiet," and another replies, "Just keep filming." They lower a lighted probe into the water. For a moment, all they capture is drifting silt and twisting shadows. Then, unexpectedly, the probe jerks. A sharp, violent pull. The winch squeals as the line tightens. The crew scrambles, shouting. Another yank. Harder. Something is pulling from below. At first, it seems like a trick of the light, just ripples breaking the surface. But then an enormous tentacle rises, slick and powerful, thicker than a human torso. It wraps around the probe line, tightening with deliberate strength. The floodlight swings wildly as more tentacles break the surface, each one larger and more muscular than any known cephalopod. A deep, monstrous shadow forms beneath the water, something far bigger than a squid, far smoother than an octopus. A massive, shifting silhouette with the unmistakable profile of a shark-like head attached to tentacled limbs. A hybrid, a predator built for depths no human has ever survived. The lusca, the Caribbean legend said to drag entire boats into underwater caves, its existence dismissed as folklore. But here it is, rising from the abyss, thrashing with terrifying intelligence. The surface churns into a whirlpool as the creature pulls the vessel sideways. A crew member screams as the camera slips from their hands, crashing onto the deck but continuing to record. The last visible frame shows the floodlight shining directly into a cavernous maw, a gaping ring lined with hundreds of serrated suckers, before the creature surges upward. The reel cuts to static. No bodies were recovered, no vessel was found. And yet, a 5th reel was discovered in the case, unlabeled, untouched, waiting. Whatever the expedition discovered, whatever they filmed, one truth remains impossible to ignore. Myths don't survive for thousands of years unless something real inspired them. Maybe these creatures were once rare. Maybe they still exist in places untouched by human eyes. Or maybe the team captured something the world was never meant to see, something that watches from the edges of our maps and the depths of our oldest fears. But now that their footage has resurfaced, the question isn't whether these beings existed. It's whether they're still out there. So tell me, after everything you've seen, do you believe these creatures were myths or survivors? Which reel shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want more deep dive mysteries, unexplained footage, and hidden world discoveries, make sure to subscribe. New legends are waiting, and trust me, this is only the beginning.